Right now, we turn our attention away from the seemingly perennial political issues of the transgender agenda, the radical cultural agenda, even the Great Reset agenda. We turn now to a major news story that is not getting nearly enough attention in Ohio. This would be the train derailment that sent vinyl chloride and a number of other very, very dangerous chemicals up into the atmosphere. Local officials burned this stuff off. It put phosgene into the air. That was poison gas from World War I. Put hydrochloric acid into the air. It killed a lot of animals in the town. It caused an evacuation, though now the authorities are saying, oh, that's okay. It's not a big deal. Everything's fine. Don't worry about your water. Don't worry about your air quality. Come on back here. Let's get those news cameras out of Ohio and let's go back to normal. Well, if that's the case, how come we aren't hearing from people in the town itself? We will do that today with Lindsay Johnston, a 26-year-old wife and mother of two daughters who lives in the 1 mile evacuation zone in East Palestine, Ohio. Lindsay, very sorry what happened to your town, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
So, Lindsay, before we get to the reaction, what happened as you and your neighbors have seen it?
So my husband and I we were out of town just a few miles up north when it happened. And when we were on our way back, we had a bunch of people texting us, are you guys okay? What's going on up there? And we hadn't heard anything about it yet. So we got home and we had been watching things on the news, and we just started packing immediately. I don't think it was until later that they came around with speakers in their cars saying, you should evacuate. But at that point, it wasn't mandatory yet. But we did leave that night. So we've been out for, I think, 12, 13 days now. But I mean, as of right now, they say that it is safe for us to return home. February 6th, they were saying that there was, DeWine's words were, we were facing grave danger of death. They were threatening child endangerment charges to anybody that did stay behind if they had children with them. And then 2 days later, they said it's absolutely safe to go home.
How on earth are they going to reconcile those two statements? I mean, we've seen news reports that say, there's no big deal, there's no health risk, not even to your animals. We're testing the air, we're testing the water. And then you see the pictures and the videos of people who are looking at all of their chickens lying dead, whose animals have died. Obviously, there's poison everywhere. How is all that poison just cleared out of town? Poison that could have killed your children if you spent the night there. How could that possibly clear out of town in 48 hours?
Right, exactly. Those are exactly our thoughts. We know that there are some people that have returned and have gotten sick. I know our neighbors went home for a day, and I think they and one of their children broke out in a rash, had scratchy throats. I went back for just a half an hour to get some stuff from our house, and I left with a scratchy throat. My husband's been at our house a few times to clean, and he said that for the last 3 days, he's been having trouble breathing. They've found at least 3,500 dead fish in the streams. And I mean, all the time on, our East Palestine Facebook groups and things, people are posting pictures of their animals and dead animals that they find with no, indication of trauma or anything. They're just dead with no explanation.
How far out of town have you evacuated?
Right now we are in Negley, which is just the next town over. We're on the far end of Negley, with my mom. We'd been probably a half an hour out of town before that. We were in 2 separate hotels, going from different places and stuff, trying to figure stuff out. But I know this is, for a lot of people in town, it's hard to manage this. It's hard to afford. Nobody planned for this, to have to spend 2 weeks in a hotel room.
And I'm sure plenty of people are also thinking, okay, you go one town over, you go two towns over. Well, we've just talked about an historic chemical explosion. It's not as though, these places are going to be unaffected as well. What are the authorities doing and saying in town?
I mean, there was a town hall meeting last night, and our mayor has said, that he's fed up as well. But we're really not seeing a lot happening. I feel like we're not holding Norfolk as accountable as we should be. They rebuilt the railroad before the evacuation was even lifted. They rebuilt it over contaminated soil. And, it's mostly the help is coming from local organizations getting together, donating water, donating, things to people that need it, sending food to the hotels where there are a lot of residents. But I mean, their official statements are it's safe to return home. The water is safe to drink. But I mean, even Mike DeWine said that he would be drinking bottled water.
Of course.
And he said that he would return home, but I think that he would also have the financial ability to get, private testing done instead of the testing that's being contracted out by Norfolk Southern.
This seems to be the biggest environmental disaster on U.S. soil probably in my lifetime. I mean, you think about maybe 9/11 or a major terror attack, accepted in terms of just an actual accident, environmental catastrophe, clogging up the air and the water. I haven't seen anything like it. Where's the federal government? I assume Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg hasn't come by. I know that President Biden hasn't come. Have you seen anything from the federal government?
Well, our county is, in the last election, our county voted 71% Republican. So I kind of feel like maybe we're not that important to the federal government.
Wow. And especially with all the language about the flyover country and the deplorables and the irredeemables and let small town America die. Yeah, it's no surprise. I'm not surprised that East Palestine has been completely overlooked by the Biden administration, by the establishment media, by pretty much everybody. But once this news story goes away, as the people who write our news are trying to do more and more so by the hour, you're still going to have to live there. This is where your homes are. This whole town's going to have to live with this. And we can hear that the air is safe and the water is safe. Nobody actually believes that. You're telling me that your neighbors and even your husband are experiencing this is not safe. They are getting sick when they go back to clean the homes. So it's obviously just a complete crock that's coming from the authorities. And it's going to go on for years. And so what's going to happen? You live in this town for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. What consequences are you going to have to deal with that the railroad isn't going to have to deal with, that the government's not going to have to deal with, that everybody is just going to look past? It's a really, really awful situation. I guess the only thing we can do is call some attention to it and demand that the government do a damn thing about it.
Yeah. I mean, we're all concerned of what health issues we might all experience down the line. And I mean, our home values, who's going to buy? If we decide to move away,
right?
What are we going to do? Who's going to buy? It's people can't, if they're homeowners, they can't just up and leave. If you rent, it might be a little bit easier for you, but we own our home. And so what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to, avoid this when we don't know what's going to happen in the future and we don't believe what they're telling us?
Right. And rightly so. There's no reason that you should believe what they're telling you. In fact, your own experience is proving that what they're saying is not true. Lindsay, we'll have to leave it there. You will be in our prayers, as will everybody in East Palestine. And I hope that there is a little more political help that comes your way from the people who are absolutely overlooking you and the rest of the people in your community right now. Lindsay Johnston, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Go to dailywire.com/Knowles. Use code Knowles at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.